Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good whatever time of day it may be for you. I am the Layback Gamer, and welcome everybody to the new series, ESLegends Lore. A series where we will be investigating the lore behind each card that you're in your collection that it carries. So, I'm going to be honest, this is the second time I've tried to record this, and both times I've tried to put an accent on my voice, and I ended up just getting a dry throat and kind of voice cracking partway through. So, as much as I'd really like to continue that, it is going to really strain my vocal cords. I will try to have that for future episodes, but first couple, and this is going to be very similar to the flow, the polish, just the presentation of this is going to be is not going to be the best quality. Not going to be bad. At least I don't think it's not going to be bad, but it's not going to be the best quality. That being said, I do hope to build upon this series as we go along. A few things to note about this series is that, well, as stated, this is about the lore behind the cards in your collection. Now, we will be expanding upon this in the future. What we'll be expanding to is going to be just some of the encounters you can have in Elder Scrolls Legends, the adventures, maybe some a bit of interesting and, I guess, theory crafting lore for, say, collections like the Madhouse collection or the Forgotten Hero collection. All sorts of stuff inside that game. It's not going to include every detail about each topic, so something that has a gargantuan amount of lore behind. I'm not going to cover every detail about this as well. I'm not sure. Some people might be interested in that, but I think the vast majority of people who would watch this, I don't think would be interested in a 100% complete lore, 100% complete lore video. If that is the case, then let me know in the comments section, and I will slowly modify all my other scripts to make it fit that. But for the first couple episodes, it's not going to be the case. And for instance, this episode and the next few, any episodes on races will only have one legendary, and it might not be very in depth. It depends on how much content's behind that legend. For example, Red Brahmin, he doesn't have that much. Very minimal, I'd say. So, excuse me. We're gonna have we're gonna end up having almost all of his lore in this, if not everything we know about Red Brahmin. Whereas somebody such as General Tullius, or say, I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm in the middle of researching them, but Queen Baron Zaya, they do have a significant amount of lore behind them, and that's something that I'm not going to cover completely. Just that would be just some stuff that is more related to who they are, their ability, and, say, the class that they belong to. But without further ado, let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, man and beast folk alike, I welcome thee to Elder Scrolls, to ESLegends lore. Not Elder Scrolls Legends, as most of this lore will be relating to. As all good lore videos start out with, we must of course start off with the three races, or two, depending on how you take it, that start just about every race that you could find playable in the Elder Scrolls games. The Aldmer, the Nedes, and the Atmorans. I'm not going to go into too much detail, as there are not any cards that are currently in the game that represent directly any of these characters. The day we have one of those will be the day that I go into more detail. For now, let's get started with the ancient Aldmer. They are predecessors to all elves encountered in the Elder Scrolls universe. High elves, dark elves, wood elves, Dwemer, even the orcs, all stem from the Aldmer. To the high elves, otherwise known as the Altmer, which can be very confusing depending on who's saying the names. Well, let's start with the pronunciations. The ancient elves, or the Altmer, spelled Aldmer, and the high elves are the Altmer, spelled Altmer. Slight difference, and, well, when we cover the Altmer, we will get as to why they decided to be so close to their predecessors. How the Altmer came to be, there's a couple of beliefs on this. Either they were a race descendant of a race known as the oh boy, every time I try to say this name, I always mess it up. The better way to know these guys as is the Earthbones, a title that you can find in the Elder Scrolls Legends. And they themselves were descendants from a race known as the Aedra, which some race that I will cover in a later scroll. And these Earthbones happened to be around the time when Lorkhan was still alive. Or the Altmer believed that they were descendants directly from the Aedra, which would imply that they were the ones to be alive when Lorkhan still roamed around, and not the Earthbones, which also keys into that the Aldmer were ancient enough to have fought against Lorkhan, which, surprisingly enough, does play a factor into their current makeup of their hatred towards humans. Which is right, I am not 100% sure. Both sides are theories. However, either way, from the Somerset Isles, the Aldmer would spread out across the surface of Tamriel. However, the majority would stay behind. As they settled various coastal areas around the land, they would evolve into their modern-day races. Those who settled in Somerset became the High Elves. Those in Valenwood became the Wood Elves. In Skyrim, those elves became the Snow Elves. In Cyrodiil, they became the Ayleids. Underground portions of Skyrim and Morrowind, they became the Dwemer, and Morrowind became the Chimer, who later evolved into the Dunmer, otherwise known as Dark Elves. The Orcs and the Falmer are the only two races to be cursed into, well, technically the Dark Elves as well, but all three of them were cursed into their current form. Whether or not the Dark Elves see this as a curse can be speculated upon. There are other races that are speculated to have came from the Altmer to have these origins, such as the Goblins and the Reeklings, but these theories have not been confirmed as of yet. Covering the Nedes is pretty simple. They are descendants of the Atmorans, who were the first to travel to Tamriel. At least, that's the leading theory. That's what most people believe in nowadays. The Nedes settled across the areas of Skyrim, Hammerfell, Cyrodiil, and Morrowind, areas that most of which were already settled by the various elven races. As modern-day politics have shown, the Nedes and the elves didn't really like each other, and as a result, war broke out. Some Nedes, such as the Nedes that would eventually become the Imperials, became enslaved by the Ayleids. Eventually, the Nedes would disappear from Tamriel entirely through a number of events. For instance, in Morrowind, death to the elves. the case of Cyrodiil, usurping the elves as the current power there, and becoming the Imperials. In Skyrim, they interbred with the Atmorans, well, the next wave of Atmorans, to become the Nords. And those in Hammerfell were killed off by invaders. Who exactly? The descendants of the Redguards, the Yakudans. The Atmorans hail from a continent called Atmora. Go figure, eh? And while they were partial predecessors to the Imperials, they mainly ended up evolving into the Nords. They actually ended up settling in Skyrim twice. The first time in the ancient city of Sarthal, and the next eventually expanding to High Rock and interbreeding with the Nedes. The first settlement failed due to the Snow Elves. After Sarthal was built, the two races enjoyed a relatively peaceful relationship, never really caring about the affairs of the other. This all changed, however, when the Nords accidentally discovered a magical artifact of incredible power, one that Skyrim players would be very familiar with should they choose to go to the College of Winterhold. The Eye of Magnus. The elves, fearing that the Atmorans could do what the Atmorans could do with the artifact, or wanting them for themselves, not 100% sure on which it is, it could be a combination of both even. They attacked and massacred the Atmorans, killing everyone but four: Ysgramor, his two sons Yingel and Ylgar, and Azadel. Azadel stayed behind to learn from the Snow Elves as to just everything about the enchanting arts from the elven methods as he could, while Ysgramor and his sons returned to Atmora to gather his legendary 500 companions. Returning to Tamriel, the companions slaughtered the Snow Elves to the point where the Snow Elves were forced to make a deal with the Dwemer to save themselves from utter destruction. After claiming Skyrim, the Atmorans spread out, some heading down to Cyrodiil, and some heading out to High Rock, and a few also heading out to Solstein. Those in Solstein became the Skal. Those that head to Cyrodiil or interbred around on Cyrodiil became the Imperials. And those who went to High Rock became the Bretons. How? We'll explain in just a few moments. Be patient. Patience has its rewards. Unfortunately, patience was not with the Atmorans, as in time the ships from Atmora started to come with more and more crew members already dead. Why is this the case? Well, this is because it turned out Atmora slowly got colder and colder and colder until the land was nothing more than a frozen wasteland. The last ships to arrive to Skyrim ended up having over half of its population dead. Any Atmoran not on these ships sadly perished, leaving no more true Atmorans left on the face of this Tamriel in today's era. I mentioned this earlier, but I left out a single race, the Bretons. I did this because this race is a unique exception to the rule, where most of the other races, the Nords, the Dark Elves, the Dwemer, all of those races, they all had origins from either the Atmorans or the Aldmer. This race is the interbreeding of the Aldmer and the Atmorans. This race of magical humans was kept their Aldmer, her magical bloodline, while also inheriting the form of the Atmoran. Today's Bretons are more human than elf, true, but they still retain their affinity for the magic arts. making them some of the best human mages. And so, the first of many lore scrolls have been finished. While no cards exist in the game based around both of these races, their legacy covers the vast majority of Tamriel and the vast majority of the cards in this video. If you like this video, ladies and gentlemen, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video all around. Some of these pictures are used from in the Elder Scrolls Legends game. Some are taken from other games, such as Skyrim, Oblivion, and Elder Scrolls Online, and others, at least I'm 99% sure, are taken from the fantastic works of other people. Amazing artists, and well done to them. Until next time, I bid thee farewell.